This effort started 30 years ago. It was approved by the City Council then and overturned by Republican Mayor Jim Patterson at the request of some of the folks in the audience today. This last effort started a year ago. We did notify the residents. A year ago, we received their opposition letter from county residents in Sunnyside. How would they know to write in opposition if they were not notified? Lastly, I'd like to just point out that this county is suing the state, the federal government, to protect local control. You made the argument that locals, elected locally, should make the decisions on naming and renaming of their communities. I would hope that you would be consistent in your position and honor the fact that the local residents have elected a city council in Fresno. The city council has followed its policies to rename city streets, not rename county streets, but city streets, in honor of a Latino hero who fought for farm workers when nobody else would, who fought for Latinos when nobody else would. And to set the record straight, Fresno is diverse and has a diverse history. Latinos, Chinese, Japanese, Armenians, African Americans were here far longer, and the Native Americans were here far longer than any other group, and just as long as any other group in this community. And yet, not one street is named after Latino in West Fresno or in the city of Fresno.
But California Avenue is significant to my history. West Fresno, and that particular area of West Fresno, is the only area of our city that carries the history and heritage of my people. There was no adequate community engagement over this past year. If there was notification, we have not found them. And our coalition has been reaching out to businesses and residents up and down Kings Canyon. We have not found people that were aware that this name change was coming. And so I'm asking our city council, I know you're not the city council, but I just wanted you to know what we're doing. We're asking our city council to recall that vote.
It has been a hot button issue over the last 3 decades in the city and the county, renaming Kings Canyon Boulevard and outlying streets like Ventura in California after labor rights icon Cesar Chavez. City Council approved a 10-mile stretch between First and Peach, excluding Sunnyside, will be renamed Cesar Chavez. County streets will not after supervisors unanimously voted against it. So there's been a lot of passionate and political conversation over this, but we haven't had a frank conversation over a number of issues where the city and the county have bickered. So in an unorthodox version of our panel this week, we have a county supervisor, we have Steve Brandow here, and we have City Councilman Mike Carbasi. Both agreed to be in this setting this week. We did invite Supervisor Pacheco and Councilman Arias, but they declined, or at least they didn't get back to me. You guys have. So let's have this frank conversation, because really you guys wanted to talk about this. You could be on the hot seat, if you will, about this, because it's a hot button issue. And I want to begin with Cesar Chavez Boulevard, obviously. And Councilman Carbasi, are you confident you and your council colleagues really did have a transparent process with the community? Reverend B.T. Lewis, many residents impacted by the name change, they don't believe that was the case.
I can tell you most of the public comment I've received, and I've received probably more on this issue than when defunding of the police department was on the agenda, so that's concerning to me. It happened after the vote. So I can tell you there's been a public process regardless after.
After the vote.
After the vote.
B.T. Lewis wants to recall the vote.
Right.
Will the city council recall the vote?
You have to ask the sponsors. I mean, Pastor Lewis will have to get one of them to bring the item before the agenda, the council again, but I don't see that happening.
Would you be in favor of it?
I would want to listen to everyone's feedback, but I will add this. During the pandemic, we talked about essential workers. Our farm workers were considered essential. I do totally respect the fact that there is historic significance for the black community in that neighborhood, but there's also historical significance for the farm worker movement. And Cesar Chavez was a respected person in that area. So we have to find a way to be able to coexist and share. And I would hope that we can compromise, but I would like to see what his ideas for that are.
Supervisor Brandow, you and Supervisor Pacheco, you put forth that resolution not in favor of renaming because there wasn't enough community engagement. That's what you guys talked about. Did the county themselves do enough community engagement of their own to come to that conclusion?
Well, for my bar, there was. I went to a community meeting. I was asked to attend. I went to that. There were, maybe 100 folks from the community that discussed it. It was practically unanimous, and they were from all parts of the streets that were to be renamed, all the way from East Fresno to West Fresno. So all kinds of people there, and then we received lots and lots of letters. I'll tell you, openly, it was very one-sided. Please don't allow this to happen, okay? So that's what we heard from the community.
And Councilman Arias, he came to your supervisor meeting. You saw it there. He pointed out the county is suing the state to protect local control. He said that he would hope that you would be consistent in your position and honor the fact that the local residents have elected a city council that has policies to change the name of city streets in honor of the Latino hero who fought for farm workers. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I disagree when the electeds are operating out of their own personal political agenda rather than what the communities. And you could see, and you had the video that showed Councilman Arias there and Pastor B.T. Lewis, and they're both at odds. And one of them saying there was a lot of outreach. The other one saying, B.T. Lewis is saying, we didn't see that outreach. So the citizens have to decide, who do you believe? Do you believe Councilmember Arias or Pastor B.T. Lewis? Now, I've known both those guys for a long time, and I'm squarely on the side of Pastor B.T. Lewis.
Let me ask you this, Councilman. Well, do you object to what he said, especially on...
I can't object to more transparency. I can tell you that the letters we received were on both sides. It wasn't just one-sided.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Mayor Dyer decided not to veto this.
Right.
He probably knew that there wasn't going to be enough votes anyway to keep that veto intact anyway. But I'm wondering if that would have given enough time for the community to come back and offer a little bit more discussion.
Well, to be fair, yes, it would have. It would have put it back on the agenda. Sure.
Yeah, it would have put it back on the agenda.
Alex,
do you wish that would have happened?
Well, I wish we had all the input when we were reviewing the item. I did think the item was going to come back, and I can tell you that while I respect my colleagues who put it on the agenda, it's their districts, I know how it's important to them, it wouldn't have hurt to have more input to hear directly from everybody after they were organized and ready to go on this issue.
All right, go ahead.
Well, the process was completely blown, and that's only part of why the county took its vote. But certainly the citizens were told that they were going to get another opportunity to weigh in, and that was taken out from underneath their feet. They were also promised that there was going to be a committee built to look at this issue. That was taken away. That never happened. So the city of Fresno completely blew this one.
That's what I learned afterwards, but again, you're going to have to ask the sponsors because that was their responsibility.
Okay, but again, from where you sit,
sure,
that never happened.
From my understanding, that never happened.
Okay. Let's talk about the name change now. Obviously, there was the city of Fresno put aside, what, about $1 million to make sure businesses, to get what they want for the name change for their businesses. But does that impact emergency services now?
Well, that was one of the discussions we heard when the county was debating the issue. And look, I'm pretty confident in our ability to, even with a name change, they can still call it Kings Canyon. They can call it Cesar Chavez Boulevard. They're going to get through it. I don't think it's a valid enough argument to really worry about. It's just something that comes up.
What about businesses, though? Is that enough funds?
Well, we believe it is, but I'll tell you what, though, as a business owner myself, I can understand their concern. And one thing we don't want are unfunded mandates. We may have to come back with more money, and I'm sure that we'll find a way to do that if that's necessary.
All right, punctuate this.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that those are some of the smaller issues, and they're important. But when I went to the community meeting, that was lower on the list of their concerns. Right. It's certainly more to them about the history of community. You heard Pastor B.T. Lewis talking about California meant so much to his community. Equally, in Old Sunnyside, Kings Canyon means a lot to the community. They grew up churches, schools, barbershops.
All right.
It's about history.
I got to end the discussion there, but we have a lot more to talk about. It's county, it's city, and we have a lot more to talk about, including a courtroom battle set to play out over the legitimacy of a county campaign ordinance. We're going to talk about that and if the county and city are still not on the same page when it comes to Measure C back on the ballot in 2024.